Good morning and welcome to Essential Ingredients. I'm your host, Justine Reichman. With me today is Sachi Singh. She's the founder and CEO of Rootless, and I'm super excited to have you here. And welcome.
Thank you, Justine. I am thrilled to be here. And the goal of this is to make sure that everyone can come away from it thinking seaweed is an essential ingredient. So perfect.
Ah, I love that. Seaweed is an essential ingredient. Okay.
The
I
essential
like that.
ingredient, some
The
might say.
essential ingredient. Okay. So, for those folks, because we're just getting to know you, and I want the community to get to know you, if you would just introduce yourself and maybe 30 seconds on, what Rootless is.
Sure, happy to. So I'm originally from India, grew up in the food as medicine philosophy, and it's so funny when your mother and your grandmother tell you things as a child and it never sticks, and then you become an adult and you're like, they were right all along. So life has come full circle where now I'm building a food as medicine solution to help women navigate major hormonal changes through their life stage, starting with menopause. So I started Rootless really as a way to get more people to eat and grow sustainable seaweed. And a journey I'm sure we're gonna talk about is has led us to this really interesting and exciting place where we're really helping women navigate menopausal symptoms. So that's the sort of focus area for now, and it's a really interesting space because it's one of the few spaces in which our tagline is investing in self-care is investing in planetary care. The more demand we
Mhm.
can build for the essential regenerative ingredient that is seaweed, the more value we can create in that regenerative supply chain. So that's sort of the ethos of and the why behind Rootless.
Thanks for sharing that. That's super interesting. I mean, I know myself, my mom was always about eating what makes you feel good and paying attention to that. And while it was not necessarily from the Eastern philosophy, it was just from the mindful philosophy, if you will, before
Okay.
we were calling it mindful, right? Um, so I'm curious a little bit more about your background. Why seaweed and why menopause?
My favorite question. Seaweed was
Let's start with
intentional.
let's start with seaweed first. We'll start with seaweed, then we'll
Sounds
move
good.
on.
Sounds good. It's interesting too because you we'll get a flavor of both. Seaweed was intentional, menopause was emergent. So a nice little juxtaposition there. So why seaweed? I have spent my life in the climate and ocean space. So pretty early in my career, I stumbled into climate change as an industry, and for over 13, 14 years, I've been working on international climate change solutions. And even when I started, I was 19 at the time. I realized that this is the space I want to be in. This is the impact that I want to have. How do I, as a person, make the most leveraged impact in the space of in the industry of climate solutions? So I've explored different levers, the lever of think tanks, the lever of policy, the lever of academia. I got my master's in environmental management from the Yale School of Forestry and Environmental Studies. I worked in philanthropy. So I was kind of doing a little bit of everything, getting a taste of where, I could apply my skill set and passion. And in this journey, discovered seaweed. Actually, it was in Kiribati, which is the most remote, least developed country in the world. Fascinating place. I kind of saw my first seaweed farm there and started to think about seaweed, and it was truly the first systems level solution that I had come across in my decade of doing this work. It is, one of the most nutrient dense and diverse foods on the planet. It has this incredible nutrition profile. Um, each species has a slightly different nutrition profile, but broadly, we're talking high quality protein, dietary fiber, vitamins, minerals, trace elements, the bioactives that are actually being studied for their impact on metabolic syndrome disease. And it's interesting because the research shows that seaweed has nutritive properties that actually reduce the incidence of metabolic syndrome disease. You can find seaweed in the blue zones. You can find seaweed in, as part of the traditional diet in Okinawa and Japan and Korea, where people are living longer and healthier lives. So um, when I came at it, I was like, this is the most incredible healthy thing that we're not eating. We all need to eat more of. And as a crop, as a food crop, it's a zero input regenerative food crop, which means unlike any sort of land based agriculture, it doesn't require fresh water, fertilizer, pesticides, or even land to grow. as it's growing, it's actively regenerating the environment. So it's making oceans healthier, it's providing standing structure for marine biodiversity. Um, it's providing access to livelihoods for coastal communities, fishing communities, lobster communities that are getting ravaged by climate change. So I started to go down this rabbit hole and I was like, this is win win win. This is the coolest, most sustainable foundation for the future of food, I think, and the future of farming. So how do we make it sexy? How do we sort of like put brand and storytelling and marketing in and create a product that can help people access the health benefits of seaweed, regardless of whether they like the taste or not? And then I can do all of the unsexy work on the back end, to ensure that the seaweed is responsibly harvested and sustainably sourced.
So what I actually love seaweed. Like I used to go to the Japanese restaurants and just eat seaweed, and then I'd buy it at home and have it as a snack. It's a little salty.
Oh,
It
so
sort
good.
of is just that perfect snack that I used to love to carry around, even as a child. Like I
Interesting.
liked it. That was weird, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
Probably because I started eating sushi at a very early age, and
Mhm.
you have that as part of a role or something. So I was become more familiar with it. But my question to you is the way that you thought about this was as a climate solution, as a way to offer people a healthy solution that was not only healthy for them, but also regenerative,
Exactly.
and sort of educate them on the way as to why this is such a good product. Am I correct?
Exactly. That's exactly it.
Okay, so with that in mind, right, you build this product to deliver something that was better for you, better for the planet, and you achieve those things. But then you come across menopause.
Hmm.
And how did you connect this product with as a resource for menopause?
Great question.
And before we get into that, I just want to show folks that are watching this what the product looks like. So for those viewing this, it looks like this, and it comes in a variety of flavors. So this one is the double strawberry. We have the coconut chai. We have the cinnamon crunch and the orange pistachio and the cacao crunch. And so as I'm eating this, I'm eating it because it's healthy and because I want to have all these benefits. And then you connect that it's impactful for menopause. So tell me, how did you find that out? And what was the impetus to even, was it, okay, there's a chicken and egg thing. Did you come up with the idea about menopause, or were you experiencing, or somebody was experiencing this as a resource or something, a way to deal with symptoms from menopause?
Great question. So, this is what a little bit of what I was foreshadowing with the intention versus the emergent. Seaweed as a regular part of the American diet was the intention. Oh, good. We're getting a live reaction here from Justine.
Mm. And you
It's
can,
like dense.
there's a live, I love the taste of seaweed.
I love
But
that.
then you mix it with the cacao or the chocolate or the dates or the orange, it becomes a little sweet and a little savory together.
Exactly, exactly.
The
And
perfect combination.
it kind of cuts the sweet of the date too, so it's not like cloyingly sweet. I mean, I love dates. I think so many people love dates, but like it gets cloy at the end. So
Yeah,
I think the
I
umami
have
just
an
like
aroma
cuts
too.
it a little bit.
But I'm okay, right? Nothing
All
like
good. Teeth check. I do
okay,
that
great.
all the time.
So that was the orange pistachio, which I'm a huge fan of.
While mainstreaming seaweed into the American diet and particularly trying to get it into the daily diet, that really was the intention since day one, which is actually even how I designed the product. I'm currently in my brother's apartment because I'm no, nomadic for the summer, as I was sharing with you. And in this kitchen, we developed the scratch recipe of the product. So I was just tinkering around and I was like, how do we get people to access the health benefits regardless of whether they like the taste or not? Because a lot of people in America and the West don't like the taste of seaweed. So bioavailable, minimally processed, daily dose, like that was the behavior that I was trying to encourage. And all of the research around seaweed is has been really fascinating to follow. There's all of this work that's being done around studying the bioactives in seaweed, fucoidan, fucoxanthin, porphyrin, for their anti-carcinogenic, anti-tumor, antiviral, antimicrobial, antibacterial properties. There's all of this work around the nutrient density and diversity. It's filling gaps in the Western diet. It is this incredible, potent, bioavailable source of iodine. So there's the seaweed species that we're using, which is a red species, actually has been studied in vitro. So just cell cultures have been studied for its impact on colon cancer cells. And there's actually studies, and I can send you all of this research to show that when they're the bioactive porphyrin actually kills the colon cancer cells in vitro in cells. So
Wow.
yeah, it's there's all of this interesting research. And the thing that I personally love about it, in the as an ingredient story, is that seaweed was not built in a lab. Seaweed is not new. It is literally one of the world's oldest foods. There's all of this rich cultural, historical legacy around seaweed being used as a food, seaweed being used as a medicine. In East Asia, in the Scandinavian and Viking culture, it kind of shows up in different places in mythology and storytelling and folklore. One instance that I love is after a Korean, even till today, part of the cultural tradition of Korean families is that after a Korean mother has given birth, the first thing that she is fed is a seaweed soup, because it actually replenishes all of the stuff that you lost in that traumatic, birthing
Yeah.
event, because it's mineral dense and nutrient dense and nutrient diverse, etc. So all of these beautiful stories kind of popping up. And when I designed the product and went to the market, my hypothesis was, people basically know seaweed is good for them. This is just an easy, convenient, no fuss way for you to integrate it into your daily diet. So you pop a bite once a day, every day. You feel great. You come back, you subscribe. Super interestingly, we went out with like a pretty broad messaging, untargeted messaging. We were like, anyone can benefit from the health benefits that seaweed provides. And then we started to see customer after customer after customer coming in with these really heavy, big, compelling testimonials of how the bites were making them feel. And it wasn't just, I have a boost of energy, or I'm less dry, or, it wasn't kind of like a functional benefits in that way. It was, I am less tired, so I can insert activity here. I am less tired, so I can work out more, so I lost 5 pounds. I am less tired, so I can work my shift at the ER. I'm less tired, so I'm sleeping better. I'm less tired, so I'm swapping out my second cup of coffee a day. And I'm less dry. These bites have cured my perimenopausal acne. These bites have like melted weight off of my body. So all of these interesting things started to come through. And when we actually looked back into the data, we found that women, particularly over 40, were feeling the benefits in a different way and coming back. That was the stickiest consumer cohort. So that's what actually, and this, I would say, intentional pivot happened about 7 or 8 months ago. This happened between the August and October timeframe from 2023. So that's when we actually started to dig into the data, do subscriber interviews, understand who this customer is, why she's coming back. And we found that she's actually a woman trying to manage her perimenopause or postmenopause symptoms naturally, or in addition to, hormone replacement therapy or anything else that she's doing.
Oh, that's great. So when you got this information, you're taking this information in. Are you doing it through surveys? Are you doing it? How are you getting this information to be able to make these kinds of more, these larger statements and realizations?
So the customer, I actually personally have always been very close to my customers. I actually think that as a founder in the early days, it is your job to be like the first line of, communication. And it's
Mhm.
great. Like I know a lot of them by name, and we're writing to each other all the time. So I'm pretty close with my customer base. So I did a lot of one-on-one interviews. We've done a ton of surveys and feedback surveys, product market fit surveys. But this is to add a qualitative layer of context on top of just data, because we have customers who have been in our consumer base or in our subscription program since January of 2022, which is when we started. So that's like 15, 16 months of subscription for a single SKU product, right? Like that's pretty unheard of, I think, in this day and age. And it's because people are really feeling the impact. So once we started to like add this layer of qualitative data on top of quantitative data, we went all the way back to, product principle, product design, and we worked with a product developer, we worked with a nutritionist, we worked with a naturopath. My chief of staff, who is actually introduced me to you, is a traditional Chinese medicine doctor and acupuncturist. And we started to peel back what exactly is happening here. And we stumbled upon something super interesting. So we know that seaweed is the most bioavailable, potent, natural source of iodine, and iodine is what your thyroid organ needs to make T3 and T4 hormones. Every single cell in your body uses T3 and T4 hormones to convert food into energy. So the thyroid is actually the battery, like the master battery of your body. If that baby is not charged with iodine, with dietary iodine, everything is just working less efficiently. You're like biking
Mhm.
harder, but your tires are flat. Interestingly, and I'm curious, I'm curious, this is a question for you. Interestingly, because we're not using iodized salt in our diet anymore, we're all kind of on the verge of iodine deficiency, all of us. So I'm curious, actually, Justine, what kind of salt you use in your cooking? Do you use
I
iodized
use sea
salt?
salt. I use sea salt. I don't use kosher salt. I don't use anything like that. I'm all about the sea salt, the Himalayan pink sea salt, the Celtic sea salt, the black salt. But no, there's also nitrates in it, or nightshades. Nitrate. One of them is in there, and I
Mhm.
always get them confused. But so I do not use that.
So, and that's a cultural thing too. There's eh, pardon me for saying this, but it's true. Sabine Nosrat in her salt fat acid heat show actually says throw away your table salt because it tastes metallic. There's an aftertaste to it, and we don't like the taste of it anymore. Um, that's because table salt has been fortified with iodine. And the reason that the WHO actually mandated countries fortify their salt with iodine is because the symptoms of iodine deficiency are actually quite severe for women specifically. So if you're not getting enough iodine, you're chronically fatigued, your thyroid could be subclinically malfunctioning, you're dry everywhere, dry hair, dry eyes, dry skin. There's stubborn weight gain that happens in your midsection. And it's super interesting actually because the symptoms of perimenopause and the symptoms of hypothyroidism or like low iodine thyroid issues mirror each other. So as you're getting older, as your thyroid is actually starting to age, as does all our organs, as do all organs, you're actually able to uptake and absorb and use less iodine. And if you're already iodine deficient, there starts to become a problem. Your
Right.
perimenopausal symptoms actually start to get exacerbated. So what this product does is give you your daily bioavailable dose of iodine through seaweed, along with all the other good stuff that it's filling
Mhm.
as gaps in your diet, and that is actually helping your body heal itself. So
Mhm.
it's been a really and there's all of this research to suggest actually that like women particularly are iodine deficient these days, particularly in the US, and some papers actually call for a public health intervention because it's not to be taken lightly.
How does one check for iodine? I mean, is it just checking for hypothyroidism, or what is the way to check for that?
It's a pee test, so you can test how much iodine is in your pee, just a urine test.
How often do doctors, just randomly do that? Is that something we have to ask for?
You do. And actually, I would also recommend the other thing that doctors don't do is test all. I think there's 5 tests you have to do to check the full holistic picture of your thyroid health. And doctors typically just test for TSH levels. But actually, you need to get 5 different data points for you to get a holistic sense of what your thyroid is doing.
So, if somebody that was listening, wanted to investigate this, what would they ask their doctor for to make sure that they got that?
a full thyroid panel, so T3, T4, your antibody tests as well. You can do an iodine P test, but it's not necessary. I think the thyroid test will actually give you a good sense of, how your thyroid is working and what the uptake of iodine is.
That's great information, because I know as I'm sitting here listening and I'm like, I wonder if I have that. I wonder, I have a little bloat here and I have a little that. Are any of these symptoms something that, relate to that? And I'd love to go figure it out. So I appreciate you sharing that and breaking it down so we know how to move forward with it, right?
Totally.
And it would be interesting also to go get those tests to see what they are, and then to eat my Rootless and see the
Exactly.
impact. I could feel the impact immediately. What a great way to be able to create more testimonials and opportunities
Totally.
due to the product, right?
Totally.
So when you started this company, you were connecting your family values, what you grew up, your experiences, along with your personal passion for food as medicine and your experience in school and everything else. But was this your first time doing a startup?
Yes, first time founder.
Oh my God, that's exciting, right? First time
Sure.
founder.
Sure. It's great. It's great. It's
Did you
challenging.
always know you were going to be a founder? Did you always know you wanted to start your own business?
Absolutely not. No.
No. What did you think you were going to do initially?
I don't know. I don't know. I was sort of guided by passion and the need and want to make impact, and I just kind of found myself here. And I have to say, for all founders or any future founders listening, um, lean into the naivety of the early days where you really don't know what it takes to be a founder, because it is hard. If I knew then what I knew now, I would have thought three times harder about taking this leap. But I'm glad I didn't, and I'm glad I'm here. So
No, I mean, as a founder myself, I don't think I could see myself anywhere else. There's nothing else that's going to motivate me as much to get up in the morning to do what I do. And I don't know if that's a luxury or if that's just the way we planned it and it's innate in our personality, right?
totally.
That we want to make the world a better place, we need to make a living, and that's what drives us.
Totally. I love that for you. I feel the same way.
So, when you started this company and you are the founder, what was it like as you're building this product? Because product takes money and it takes resources and it takes, here we are. I mean, you had to create recipes, there was a lot that went into this. And I know that while it leaned into your passion, there were probably some skills that maybe you found you needed an expert in. So what did
Totally.
you do at that point as a new founder? And you're trying to build this business between whether you self fund or you fundraise. Can you walk me through that a little bit and what that journey looked like for you?
Totally. Bringing the product to market was a steep learning curve. All of it was new to me because I haven't cut my teeth in anything related to product or startups or food. Um, So I had raised a friends and family pre-seed round, so just internal, which allowed me to hire experts to help me commercialize. But
So wait, before you go on for that, you raised friends and family. So some of the founders that we have come on don't necessarily even know how to raise a friends and family. And going to friends and family can be intimidating, or you feel awkward. So how did you approach that?
yeah, so I actually was in a unique position because my dad is a venture capitalist in India, and he is my secret weapon. I actually finally put him on my deck in my, like, publicly. I put him in sort
Yes,
of
yes, yeah,
my
yeah.
my advisory board, because he has grown and he has now under his belt a couple of unicorns, and he comes from consumer. He invests in digitally native companies, so he was my patron saint, if you will, which a lot of people don't have access to. So I have to say I definitely had a leg up, and he's my secret weapon co-founder that doesn't give me stress, which I love and I'm very grateful for. And he really helped me in the early days flatten my learning curve and help me figure out how to build this business and the things to kind of build around. So one of the big early decisions that I made was I wanted this to be a brand. We invested a lot in terms of time, money. Actually, my branding partners are on my cap table. They're actually equity partners of mine, Red Antler. Um, because I knew early on that this is not just a product, this is a brand universe that we're building. And I think, I having that philosophy early on was really helpful and really steadied us as we built and navigated. So definitely in a unique, privileged position to be able to do that. And we just, we just closed our crowdfunding campaign that I shared with you. So we had the resource to be able to go and hire experts to help us or help me flatten that learning curve.
So when you first did this, you were self-funded in the beginning, I
Yep,
imagine.
exactly.
And then you went off to go do a friends and family, and then you went to go do institutional money, if you will.
Yep, exactly.
Um, and so what do you think the journey would have been like if you didn't have access to somebody like your dad who does VC?
Different. It
What do you
would
think
have
the
been,
greatest challenge would have been?
I think we're facing this now as well. It's really hard to innovate in a system that is not built for you. Like I personally, as just as a human, don't have any networks here. I'm an immigrant. I was only able to access entrepreneurship after I got my green card, which took me over a decade to get. So there's a lot of, there's gates, and
Mhm.
communities are gated. And I went to an Ivy League school. I had access in so many ways, but I was also denied access in many ways. So I'm also not a white man, so the in the VC funding stats, when they say less than 2% of VC money goes to female founded companies, I don't think they have stats about immigrants, people of color. Like
Mhm.
we're very very small percentage of the population that's getting funding. So I think it would have just it I would have where we are today is where I would have been, 3 years ago, which is just going out and finding the patron saints, finding people who really believe in you and the thing that you're doing and the thing that you're building and are actually along for the ride. I mean, we're literally
Mhm.
creating a new system of capital. We're creating a new, we've built IP across the value chain to bring this product to market. Every
Wow.
single thing is new. And the only reason we've been able to do it in 3 years and 3.5 years is because we had access to capital in the first place. So I think this would have gotten built regardless. It would have just taken more time.
Right. And it's luxury. It's really a gift to be
Oh,
able to
totally.
have those resources. And really what we want to do with this podcast is give people access to that information so they can make more informed choices for themselves, right?
Totally.
So, because being born and raised in New York, I look at all the entrepreneurs that own the bodegas. I mean, it's not a CPG product, but there are entrepreneurs nonetheless on every other corner, right? That are owning those bodegas. And,
Totally.
there's lots of different kinds of entrepreneurs. And I think that it's really to share those stories can empower, even if it's just one, to go off and do it themselves or change the way they're thinking or their narrative, or maybe empower
Totally.
them to think a little differently and think it's possible because it is overwhelming and really
Totally.
intimidating for many.
Totally. And I do think like thinking about systems of capital a little bit more creatively is also something that
Mhm.
we should think and talk about more. I think all the work that's being done with regulation, it's called reg cf, regulation crowdfunding
Mhm.
instrument, with Kickstarter, with all of these ways where you're actually inviting people to be a part of your journey. You're giving them equity, you're making the raise accessible. You're actually kind of showing people that you can put your money where your values are. You can actually
Mhm.
invest in companies and entrepreneurs and in mission and vision and early pre-seed pre institutional funding ideas that can help them take the system to the next level and build something that's truly innovative. I'm actually personally so tired of like another, this is just my bias, but like another better for you cookie or another better for you like drink brand. I'm just like, let's do something new where let's fight the climate crisis. Let's build a new system of capital. Like that's worthy of investment, in my opinion, not just another generative AI company that's making images. And to do that, I think we need to think about capital differently.
And so, with that being said, how can we communicate that differently to people so that they can understand that? If you could say it in the perfect way, or I mean, because I'm putting you on the spot, but what would that look like?
I encourage people to think about themselves as investors. So you're an investor and a change maker with your vote. You're an investor and change maker with your wallet. Vote with your values and invest with your values. Buy from small brands. Support companies that you love. Don't, if like line the pockets of, and I'm an Amazon shopper, so I'm saying it's hypocritical for me to say that I don't use that platform, but if there's ways I can avoid it and actually use my dollar to invest in an economy that is supporting my values and will allow me to even see myself as like a shareholder, as an investor in the
Mhm.
system, my buy-in and um, my inclination to sort of be part of the change, I think, is a little bit higher and greater. So my like quick synopsis is like, you're an investor already. As participating in the consumer economy, you're an investor. Be intentional
Mhm.
about what you're investing in. Invest with your values.
That's perfect. I love that, and I think that that really gives people a clear direction. This is how you can make a change. And I think
Totally.
the one thing often that people feel is like they have to change everything to do it.
Totally.
And I think that that's a misconception. I think we all need to do what we can. And I think you have to decide, if climate and food is important to you, right? And you focus on that. Doesn't mean you need to focus on 12 other things, because then you're spreading it too thin, or you
Totally.
feel like you're not successful, or you're not making a great enough impact. So I think my biggest takeaway is to, like you said, to invest with your values and look at that as the impact you're making and your legacy behind you.
Totally.
Um, if it's too spread out, if it's too disparate, right? It's harder to feel that impact that you're making, and that focus has really been sort of diluted in a way that's not quite as impactful. You're still making an impact, don't get me wrong, but I think it's really hard to achieve that feeling of success, and that this is what I focus on and this is what I'm hoping to support, and then to follow that niche and that industry to see how that's being changed for the
Totally.
future.
Totally. And then you become an
So
expert and then you bring your friends in. There's actually like systems level network effect that starts to happen when you get really invested in something. So I love that.
with the experience that you had in these past months building this business, can you share two or three things that you've learned that you didn't know before that you could share with the listeners so that maybe they can have a few tips to walk away with?
Oh, such a great question. I would say ask for help. Ask for help and receive help. People want to help you, and I think that's something that I struggled with. I was like, I need to be the perfect leader, founder, manager, but ask for help and receive it, and you'll go much farther. Um, I would say the second thing is lean into and continue to be naive about the future. Like I want everyone to feel hopeful and naive and like there's a better, more sustainable future that we can all build. And I would love for people to kind of hold on to that hope. And then my third kind of call to action would be your food is your medicine, so try and
Mm-hmm.
be intentional about the fuel that you're putting into your body. Your body works really hard for you. Please take care of it, and hopefully you'll eat some seaweed and feel your best.
Awesome, Tachi. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for the product. And by the way, the two that I have here, I really like the orange pistachio. I
Got
gotta
it.
say,
Noted.
I think they're both good,
Mhm.
but I really like the orange pistachio. There's something about it. I like the hint of citrus with the hint with the seaweed, with the sweet. It's really well balanced, and I just really enjoyed it.
I love it. Well, thank you
So
so
we
much,
want to hear
Justine.
from everyone that's watching that when they go get their Rootless, where can they find this product, Sachi?
Online. So
Online.
getrootless.com.
And what's the website?
www.getrootless.com.
Awesome. So for those folks interested in trying the product, check it out and then leave us a message. Let us know what your favorite flavor is.
I
We
love
look
it.
forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Justine. What a
Thanks so much.
pleasure. Bye.